Hello, everybody. I'm talking to you from the area near the Hudson River in the Bronx. Welcome to the podcast, and in this case, the video cast. I want to share with you where I am. It's really nice over here, so take a quick look. We have the Hudson River and the Palisades Cliffs. Everything is just wonderful today, so it is important every once in a while to stop and look around and see what you've got in your midst, because there's a lot of beauty out there in an ugly world. Advance notice as I hear a helicopter coming. I'm near the train line, so you're going to hear some trains, you're going to hear some helicopters, and some private planes come up the Hudson River as well. Naturally, of course, because I'm doing this, every private plane and every military helicopter and every commuter is going to come by now, because I need some quiet to share messages with my legions of fans. So we'll just deal with it as we can. We're adults and we can handle it. The big noise you'll hear, of course, is, as you can see from the background, the commuter rail behind me. So that's Cornelius Vanderbilt's fault, not mine. You're going to have to deal with him, as he's the guy who put the train line here. I did an email on my email list, which I recommend you join, recently. And I'm not sure how well it was received. And I say that because I wrote about how things are changing in terms of school and literacy. And the lens I used to talk about the change from people throwing their trust onto the government taxpayer-funded compulsory school system and having it slide from there back to a more free, independent, parent and student family-controlled methodology. I'm not sure how that email was received, because the lens I used was Albert J. Nock's essay, Isaiah's Job, where Isaiah is told, you're going to have to go into this cesspool of a town, talk to the masses, right? These disgusting, stupid, short time preference people who are just have completely lost their way and have been completely corrupted by evil. God says to Isaiah, you have to go in and talk to them. Tell them that if they don't straighten themselves out, they're going to get it. And they're going to get it good and hard, and they're really going to pay. And then God says something like, and by the way, you're not going to get to them. You're not going to reach them. You're going to probably have A, no effect, and B, they're going to run you out of town. They don't want to hear from you. And so Isaiah says to God, well, then why would I bother doing that in the first place? Why would I go in there and deal with all this foolishness and pay for it? And God says, well, because there's a remnant there, and they're small in number, but they get it. They're smart, capable, they're shuffling along as best as they can in the crazy world we're in, and they need to hear you. And I'm summarizing really pretty much just the first page, because the Nock essay is very good, and I'm not sure how well it went over. You know, I get some feedback on these things, and I got an email back wondering what the point of the whole thing was. But the idea was that the remnant is out there, and they're starting to shake a little bit. They're starting to push back a little bit. And the evidence I use is there's an Indiegogo campaign, and there's a small press that is actually pushing out and selling through the funding campaign Collier's 4th edition of the Junior Classics from 1918. And the classics are old, sometimes difficult to read, richly layered stories for children. And I believe the age goes from about, let's say what today would be considered pre-K, 2, 3, 4. There's some early stuff in there, and it goes all the way through. I think there are 12 books, there might be 14 books, and they go through what would be today considered the middle of high school. And when you read these texts, they're not what we today would consider for children, especially the ones that are engineered for teenagers and preteens. They're difficult, but they're accessible. And young people with their elastic minds and intellectual curiosity can get to them. They have illustrations. The stories are rich in plot. The language used is elegant. And it shows you that back in the olden days, instead of the myth that people were less literate and that they are just hayseed farmers who couldn't really do anything other than dig in the dirt and pray that the soybeans grow so that they can eat, they actually were extremely literate and able to read these things. And the proof is that these things exist. The proof of what I'm telling you is that, of course, 2 planes together flying over. It can't be just one while I'm sharing this wonderful information with you guys. Naturally, we've got 2 planes flying in formation, which caught my eye. Anyway, as I was saying, the proof is that the Collier's editions from 1918 are everything that school-age literature today are not. Those editions, those books, represent a different age, a different era. And the era was, you are a sovereign, free person, and it's really your job to educate your children, and then it's their job to educate themselves. And if you do put in the work, you'll find whatever station in life you can, and you're free to do so to the best of your ability, and no one, not government, not a company, not a police officer or a high school English teacher, nobody will get in your way. And that's an America that's long gone, but the proof of the way it was is right in front of your face. And so what I'm trying to explain to people is not some libertarian, anarchist, no rulers type proselytizing. No, it's showing you that today's system, today's way is, first of all, it's not the way it always was, and it's less effective than the way it was before. So this email I put out was the remnant, these people who are out there, who demand intellectual robustness for their children, who expect the schools to carry the weight and push their children so that they're literate both in math and science and in literature and history, that way is not working. And the fundraising goal on the Indiegogo campaign was $27,000 and change. Just short of 28 grand is what they needed to publish these things and send them out to the expected number of people that they were going to send them to. So you can get them digitally, that's much cheaper. I think it's $35. But if you wanted the bound set, which I'm going to get, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $250, somewhere around there, might be a little more. And they also sell a leather-bound set for almost like a museum display. I mean, this leather-bound set is amazing, and it's hundreds of dollars. Wonderful-looking stuff. And the paper is acid-free, type of paper that won't turn yellow and crumble in your hands after 15 years, which is also kind of another top-of-the-pyramid scam, so to speak, from the people who rule over us. And, people I think wonder where I'm coming from with this. Let me rephrase. The older people I speak with on my email list and in person, not my teenagers that I work with, the older people wonder where I'm coming from with this, because what I tell them is that we have all met people who seem to get off on bossing other people around. They seem to really get a kick out of lording themselves over people and pushing them around, especially when they don't have a path to opt out. And my point is, when people do have a path to opt out, when you can get something that does not force you to better yourself or your children, people will take it. And this campaign, this Indiegogo campaign of the Collier's 1918 Junior Classics is proof of that. $28,000 was the goal, just short of that. As of this morning, they've raised over 900% of that. They're over $250,000 in raised money. $250,000 for a campaign that wanted $28,000. They're in the neighborhood of $250,000. Actually more than that. And what that is to me, and I don't think I'm wrong, is the remnant. It's that group of people who see that things in the education system anyway, they see that it's broken. They send their children to school and they get nothing. They get dumbed down, easy nonsense. And not only that, but they're in a system that won't allow them to fail. The only thing that sets our administration off in the craziest way possible is if you have a low passing rate. We have people on staff who have high passing rates. They get away with all kinds of nonsense. I mean, really terrible things. But I know one passes practically everybody every year. And this teacher's classes are stacked with students, well over 30 in all 5 sections. And basically they all pass. Now, you can't tell me that that's school. You can't tell me that that's valuable for teenagers. And I'm telling you, you can't tell me that people don't notice these things. They certainly do. And the proof that I'm giving you is this Collier's 4th edition for sale in a fundraising campaign. It's not Random House or Macmillan or one of the big publishers publishing this for the people. Oh, here comes a train. It's an independent thing. Vox Day had it on his site, and he moved out of the country a long time ago to get away from the craziness and the nonsense that has infiltrated the American system. And so it's easy for him to notice and say something about it, because what are you going to do? You're going to go over to Europe and yell at him? Anyway, my point is that the remnant is lifting its head up and noticing that their children are not capable and that their children are at extremely low levels of literacy, and they're doing something about it. All I do is notice these things and share them with you, really. People like to hear proof. You know, I'll come up with ideas and I'll show them what's going on, and I'm good at the English teacher game and literacy and things like that. And what I do is, what I like to do anyway, is prove that what I say is happening and true. And this campaign that I'm telling you about is very real. I'll link to it and I'll show you, right? We've got a lot of things going on in the country, and the regular people, the small percentage of regular people who see them are reacting. Now, one last point to mention is the fact that, and it's a point I bring up a lot, I talk like this often to my teenagers, the 9th graders and the 12th graders. Those are the 2 ages I have this year. The teenagers listen, ask questions, absorb what I say, go behind my back and check out, right? I'll tell them, look this up. Let me show you an English test from the late 1800s. Let me show you, and I'll show them on the smartboard, and then they go further on their phones. Let me show you some of the things that were read in school before 1955, before 1935, in 1985. Right, so this is the dialogue and the methodology that I use to get this point across with teenagers. With adults get angry. Go up to your local adult human on the street and say, you know what? think public school isn't really doing it. I don't think it's getting it done. The results are terrible, scores are low, the tests are a joke, and even though they've dumbed down the tests, the scores are low on those dumbed down tests, which is true. Look at the SAT. SAT is not what it once was. Did you know that? If you're Gen X or baby boomer, you probably think, well, man, you got to study those vocabulary words. Those analogies are tough. They haven't had analogies on the SAT in 25 years. So these people don't know what they're talking about. You know what I'm talking about. I sure as hell know what I'm talking about after 25 years in the public schools. So it's fascinating to watch the reaction of the various people involved. Adults get angry, they get emotional, they yell at you. It's like you've put them under a spell. You expect them to run around screaming, lighting things on fire. You tell them the public schools aren't the way to do it. And they come up with stupid stuff like, well, how else would we do it? How else are we going to educate the children? The way we did before, the way people have been educated for years. Anyway, that's not the point of this video cast, is it? But the remnant is there. I think some of you are part of it. And you can opt out, right? So that last point with the reaction, the last point I'm making today, right now, is the opt-out part. When people can opt out, and this is why people go into government, because in government you can't opt out. If there's a law that says you can't park here, or you can't have this leaf in your house, or you can't carry this tool, you get fined or go to prison, then you can't opt out. You can't do it. There are a lot of things I can't just, I'm here by the shore, I can't just bring things down, or, I can't just fish the way I want to. I can't just go get a boat and park it. There's so many things, it's not even funny. You can't rip the tag off your mattress. You can't opt out. But when people can opt out, they do. And it's those people that I'm trying to reach. Albert J. Nock, in his essay, Isaiah's Job, called them the remnant. You can call them the top 20%, maybe it's the top 5%. But those are the people that I'm trying to reach, that I'm trying to talk with. Those people are the ones who I'm trying to connect with, and I think you should too. So let's leave it at that. I'll talk to you guys soon for the next episode. I don't know if I'll be inside or at the studio, but best of luck to all of you. There's no homework. You don't have to take any notes on this one, and I'll see you soon. Take care. This is Doug Marola, signing out, the Freelance Teacher.